Hello, everyone. This is Bob Gums, bringing you the Concern Forum. And I really just wanted to get a few things off my chest. We plan to do a more comprehensive, bigger show because today is Friday. So we're looking at doing a real biggie, probably Tuesday. I'm sorry, Wednesday or Thursday. But the thing with the present administration that we have in the White House, sometimes you see things that, really wants to make you explode. Okay? Before I go any further, listen, I hope that you guys will out there will subscribe to the show. And also, I want to see those comments. If you agree or you disagree, uh, that's what I'm talking about. Because this whole thing is about what we do as Americans. What are we going to do to try and save the United States? And not just the United States, but also, to be quite frank about it, we have to realize the impact that what we do, the effect that it has upon the rest of the world. Now, this business about what's going on with Iran, uh, I think it's time for the American people to grow up, to be quite frank about it. I've heard some commentators make the comments that, oh, well, we have been at war with Iran since, what is it, 1979. No, that's not true. Very few of American commentators have told the American public the truth of the Iranian situation. They say, oh, well, they're running around. We can't let these people have a nuclear weapon or nuclear devices or a nuclear power plant or a nuclear anything because they run around yelling about, oh, death to America and all this kind of good shit. Listen, I think that one of the greatest problems that we have in the United States is the fact that, by and large, especially among the working class, the American public, uh, they have basically, over the last 30, 40 years, they have been, how should I say, they have devolved in terms of education. Uh, I'm not so much blaming the American public because we have a system. And ever since the days of early days of Vietnam, the system that we have in this country has been working overtime to dumb down the American public. I know that a lot of people are going to really be pissed at me for saying this, but it's true. One of the benefits of being, what the fellas in the hood call OG, older guy, is the fact that you know about many of these things. When somebody says, hey, remember the church commission back in the 70s? You know exactly what they're talking about. Remember, America started these problems with Iran. Okay? Uh, we were the ones that overthrew a democratically elected government because of the fact that we wanted to rip off the people's oil. And then we decided to bring in a monarchy, a very brutal dictatorial monarchy. And, the people were subjected to that nonsense for like about what, 29, 30 years? From what, 53, 54 up until 79. Okay. So I would ask you, if I came to your house, if I came to your neighborhood and I totally screwed up everything and basically bounced your head off the wall and said, well, from now on, you're going to do it this way, I think that you would be inclined to run around talking about, hey, death to Robert. you know, well, that's the same thing with the Iranian situation. And see, that's one of the problems that America has. Uh, we have been kept. Uh, what's the word? I'm not a great scholar here, but there's a word when you keep, when you work to keep people baby like childish, infantile, right? Uh, in many respects, that's what's been happening with the American public. Uh, the powers that be have worked overtime to basically keep us, trifling, um, childish, so that when things happen, all we want to do is say, "Yeah, yeah, USA, let's get them," and we don't. I don't know. It's like we don't have the cognitive capacity to sit down and think about, well, hey, why did these people do this? Why are they screaming death to America? I mean, listen, if I got a bunch of dudes, in the other neighborhood that want to, destroy me, kill me, say, yeah, we're going to get robbing these boys, uh, I would at least like to know why. Well, now you have some idea. Iran has oil. Um, the democratically elected leader of Iran, essentially said, yeah, this is our oil, and we will set the price for our oil. And the United States and the Brits, they had a problem with that. So what they did, they engineered a coup d'etat of the Iranian democratically elected government to overthrow the democratically elected government. And they brought in a monarchy, which, by the way, was the same monarchy that they had chased out at the beginning of World War II for being too friendly with the Nazis, right? So they bring these guys in, and this monarchy, they weren't very nice people. They were very brutal, um, along the lines of the German Nazi German Gestapo. And the people, they were forced to deal with that up until 1979. And they finally got to the point in 1979 where they said, listen, we've had enough of this bullshit. Okay. We want to get rid of the monarchy, which, to me is a rational response to tyranny. And unfortunately, I'm not religious. Okay. I consider myself a spiritual person. I think the greatest thing in the Bible is the Sermon on the Mount. I think that organized religion, in many, many cases, causes problems. But at that time in 1979, that is what the Iranian people basically, that's what they had to hold on to, okay, to fortify them against the dictatorial monarchy. Now you can jump up and down and say, "Well, yeah, they threw out the monarchy and they wound up getting something worse." And I don't know, you know, that's an interesting point. But if you want to know what started this whole thing, uh, that's why. See, that's why it's always better for people to sit down and try and work things out. Um, Instead of having to go through the bloodshed, revolutionary, you know, type stuff. Because sometimes, many times, revolutions, uh, you might start off with one idea in mind and it spins out of control. And I guess that's what happened with the Iranian revolution. But let's never forget the reason for that revolution was because of the fact that the United States, with the CIA and the Brits, decided that they wanted to control the Iranian oil reserves. And we are paying that price. See, what people need to understand when you're dealing in the Middle East, okay, when you do something, there's always this thing called blowback. And what America is dealing with now, uh, with this whole thing about the Straits of Hormuz and our, oil shipments not being able to go through the way that we would like them to go through, this is part of that blowback. And I get so tired of hearing this. Oh, well, we can't let the Iranians have anything nuclear because they're religious fanatics who want to blow up the world. And quite frankly, that's such bullshit. Because if you take a look at what the government of Israel has been doing, like in the West Bank, what they're doing in Gaza, okay, I tell you quite frankly, if anybody seems like a bunch of crazy fanatics, it's the Israeli government. And I guess I kind of put everybody else at a bit of a disadvantage. Um, I spent quite a bit of time in the Navy. And out of that time I spent in the Navy, I did two aircraft carriers, a fighter squadron, and I also did 5 years as an intelligence technician assigned to the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA. And I was there for what, almost 5 years in the White House and in the Pentagon. And I was, not, what's the proper term? Given? I was assigned the top secret clearance. What do you call that? Cosmic top secret SBI. Somebody asked me what the hell cosmic meant. I said it means that you can talk to God. Okay. Well, actually, I wouldn't say it was that high up on the food chain. But no, seriously, all cosmic means is that the same things that the President of the United States can see, if necessary, uh, I could see them at that time. Remember now, this is from like 82 to 87. Okay, so these are the terms that we used at that time. After I left DIA, I went back to sea duty, and I was assigned to a fighter squadron, which flew off the old USS Saratoga. So I have, and believe me, I would never. I don't like to use the term expert because expert nowadays is such a loaded term. Okay, but put it this way: I have a fairly decent notion of the work and of the international situation. And yeah, and not to be, not to have the big head, but yeah, I think I understand foreign policy better than the average guy in the United States because that was my job, right? Um, I did the research. Hey, Petty Officer Gums, go look up so and so. Hey, Petty Officer Gums, check this thing that I wrote out and blah blah blah. Okay, that's the reason why uh, those of us in the military who were assigned there had to have a top secret clearance. Okay, it's really that simple. And unfortunately, it hasn't changed. Okay, with the exception that back in the mid '80s, the early and mid '80s, we talked about. When I say we talked about, I'm just a young junior NCO, taking my notes and being available for when somebody needed something. Um, so you basically hear what's going on, and this whole thing about Iran that we're stuck in now, it was discussed. Attack on Iran was discussed in 80, 82, 83, 84. And the basic conclusion was that if you try to attack Iran, it would be number one, it would be a bloodbath, and number two, it could very well throw the whole world's economy into a depression. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the problem that the orange god, old Donald, I think that that's the problem that he's dealing with now. You see, when he says that I'm the only American president that attacked Iran, well, he's right. He's 100% right. He is the only American president in modern times that was actually dumb enough, was actually stupid enough to attack Iran. Uh, George Bush Sr. wouldn't do it. George Bush Jr. wouldn't do it. Who else do we have up there? Bill Clinton wouldn't do it. Barack Obama wouldn't do it. Uh, Nobody, no president would do it because they knew that to attack Iran would result in a cataclysmic failure. Now, if you're asking me, my humble opinion, could we take the Straits of Hormuz? Yeah, yeah. Between the Navy and the Army and of course the Marine Corps, yeah. But see, the problem would be that you would have so much blood uh, expended to try and tell. They talk about them islands, right? I mean, what the hell do you think the Iranians are going to do while we're trying to land Marines on freaking islands in the Straits of Hormuz? It would be a mass slaughter. It would be a mass slaughter of American military personnel, and it would be a mass slaughter of Iranians. And once again, Donald Trump is right. He is the only American president that was stupid enough to let the Israeli prime minister talk him into, doing this crazy shit uh, for the greater glory of creating some kind of, what was it, Greater Israel Project or some bullshit like that. Hey, congratulations. Um, my personal opinion, I don't think it's worth. I don't think it was worth a potential World War III. That's number one. Number two, I wonder. Now, officially, we've lost a whole hundreds of wounded American military people. and 13 dead. Now, I will tell you straight up, I don't believe that bullshit. I believe that we have a lot of dead Americans, okay, and a lot of wounded Americans. And remember, when you're talking about wounded, you're talking about men and women who've had their arms blown off, their legs blown off. They have been subjected to brain injuries, what have you. And quite frankly, I don't believe it was worth it. I don't believe that dead Americans and wounded, disabled Americans, I don't believe that it was worth it for the sake of creating a greater Israel. I'm sorry, I just don't believe that. I get so upset when I see people, uh, you know, in Trump's cabinet, or how should I say, in Trump's crew, that talk about, yeah, well, we bombed and blah blah blah. And remember, Trump himself is a draft dodger 5 times. Okay. And, most of none of these people in Trump's cabinet have ever served. They have no idea what it feels like to, try to not shit on yourself because you're so freaking scared. Okay. Which is a normal human reaction. They have no idea what it's like to stand the post. They have no idea what it's like to walk a point. They have no idea what it's like to do a dog watch on a destroyer or an aircraft carrier in hostile waters. They have no idea. But they are, gung ho, happily willing to go to a working class America and say, yeah, give us your daughters, give us your sons, and we are going to let them get cut to pieces for the sake of greater Israel. And then when you try to make that point, you're going to have these people, oh, well, you're being anti-Semitic. No, that's bullshit. Okay. Uh, the idea that if I criticize a government, that somehow I'm criticizing a religion, that's insane. In New York, right, we got that dude. I can't think of his name offhand. He's a congressman. What was it, Goldman? I can't, I'm not going to try because I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But he was a, Democratic congressman. To me, he seemed like a fairly good guy. But he had this thing about protecting Israel uh, and their foreign policy. And what happened? Um, you had a person that was much more, oh, I hate these stupid ass terms, left, right. You had somebody that basically said, well, listen, I'm running on the Democratic ticket, and I don't believe that Americans should be expending blood, treasure, money, time to help Israel commit genocide. And that person won. Okay? That's not anti Semitism. Believe me, I know anti Semitism. I left the Navy in 91 because of anti Semitism, right? Uh, so I know anti Semitism. But as an American, we have the right to curse out, to criticize, to piss all over, right? People that, officials, public officials that we don't like. So if you have a situation where you have a sovereign nation, okay, which is what Israel is, they are a sovereign nation. If I don't agree with their foreign policy, I have a right to stand up and say so. Okay. And the person that ran against this Democratic congressman, she exercised that right and she won, which tells you that the majority of Americans essentially feel the same damn way. When you look at the was it Netanyahu, I always screw his name up, Bibi. That's what they call it, Bibi for short, right? This guy, because they thought who did the was it the October 7th, uh, where they attacked uh, uh, Israelis, but just like about 4 or 5 weeks previous to that, the Israeli Prime Minister was giving money to what was it, Qatar or one of those Arab countries to give to Hamas. So I don't, I that part I really don't get that. Okay, you supplied money to the people that did that. What would you call it? A commando type raid. Um, so I don't understand what are you upset about. You helped create that situation. Now I suspect what happened is the fact that you have been supporting what you might want to call radicals, okay? Because what was it? It was the PLO or one. You were trying to stop the people that were fighting for a two-state solution. See, and to me, it seems to be a case of you trying to manipulate folks, and you got burned in the process. As far as what was it? I think 170 Israelis supposedly. I don't know about that because I'm getting all different kinds of stories. I'm getting stories from the United Nations personnel. I'm getting different stories from the, European media. So I'm not gonna juggle with that. But that did not give you the right to slaughter. What is it like about 70,000 people? And it's probably more than that because of the fact that so many of those people are buried under the rubble there in Gaza. We have these reports of Israeli IDF guys shooting babies. And, I know that some people want to say, well, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. But then, you start getting this information from all different sources. And you start to say to yourself, well, hey, there must be something to this. And as an American, I mean, my God, for the last 250, 300 years, we have been fighting to try to live up to what we claimed our principles are supposed to be. And now you're saying that if I don't want to support you in your genocide, that somehow I'm anti-Semitic. I'm sorry. I don't think that's fair. I really don't. I can't buy that. And I'm starting to see the mass majority of American people, they ain't buying it either. And I don't understand how you think the state of Israel. I don't think. Excuse me. I don't understand how in the hell do you think that you are going to maintain yourself in that particular area where you call your neighbors, animals, they're subhuman, shit like that. I mean, yeah, you don't like your guy. I mean, that's one thing. But when when you're talking about, yeah, well, they're just animals. They need to be exterminated. Um, and these people are your neighbors. You definitely have a problem there. And the even bigger problem is the fact that as an American, I really don't want to be dragged into that. You want, I think what people need to understand is that Israel is an occupying force. And according to international law, according to the United Nations, when you are an occupying force, hey man, you kind of, you know, you put yourself in a very bad situation, right? I mean, people want to throw rocks at you, they want to throw mortars at you, they want to throw rockets at you. Yeah, well, that's what happens when when you are an occupying force. Okay? I think what the Nazis did to the Warsaw Ghetto was abhorrent. I think what they did with the concentration camps was abhorrent. I think people that walk around saying, "Oh, well, they really wasn't a Holocaust," they're assholes. See, I'm not no spring chicken, as you can probably see, right? So, as a child growing up, I had the opportunity. When we lived in that house, when we lived in the tenement on 112th Street in Harlem, uh, and that's when the civil rights movement was really starting to percolate. We and my parents were deeply involved, and they were rock-ribbed black Republicans. Okay, we had relatives, friends. My old man had a heart murmur, and so he was drafted, but they kicked him out basically because they said you're not physically able. But everybody else on both sides of my family, they served. They did their duty. I mean, we had merchant marines, we had Navy guys, we had Army guys. Um, what did my mom talk about? We even had one of the, when they first started taking black Marines, right? So I know my history. I know the military history of my black people from World War II. And we even had these guys with a Black Panther outfit, uh, black tankers, cavalry, right? Was it 761st? They were some of the first American units to knock down those gates and go into the concentration camps and rescue those folks. So believe me, I understand all about um, the Holocaust. I grew up studying the Holocaust. I grew up with people who actually saw the Holocaust. I'm from New York, okay? We have a lot of Jewish people who had experienced the Holocaust. It was demonic. What I'm trying to understand is for the state of Israel, that's supposed to be a refuge. How could how could the leaders of Israel do that to other people? I mean, you look on social media and you hear a lot of the things that are said about Arabs, Muslims, about Arab Christians. And you say, well, wait a minute, what happened to the whole never again thing? See, that's where I'm coming from. And this oh well, you criticize the government of Israel, you're anti-Semitic. Hey man, let me tell you something. My folks was in the movement, okay? And as soon as I was able to go out there and walk on my 2 feet, I was in the movement. And I seen here in America, I seen many a rabbi get beat down by them no good goddamn rednecks, okay, in the South, putting their lives on the line so that black people could have the right to vote. So I don't need some clown to tell me about being anti Semitic. But what I see now, it angers me, it depresses me because I don't know, there seems to be a class or a segment, uh, some made up of some very wealthy people, as a matter of fact, and they feel that they have the right. I mean, America, look, we're still trying to, how should I say this? We're on a journey in America. We're trying to live up to all them highfalutin words about all men are created equal and about being a light for for freedom and a refuge for the oppressed. And then here this bullshit comes up about we want to kill Muslims. I I have a hard time understanding that. It does not make me feel good. And it does not make me feel proud to be an American because I am so tired of seeing my country support some very racist and murderous policies. That's not what America is supposed to be about. So, no, it's not about anti Semitism. It's about right and wrong. I think anybody that's an anti Semite needs to be taken out back, hung up by his feet, and be whipped from morning till night. Okay. But that does not mean that I will approve of babies being blown to bits. Okay. I, I don't see, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't see the balance there. I really don't. And that hurts. I feel the same way about American Jews that blindly support what Israel is doing in Gaza and Lebanon. I look upon them the same way that caused me to leave the Catholic Church. Um, One of the worst people in the world to me is Cardinal Dolan. He used to be the cardinal for what the New York area. This was the guy that said that what's his name? That asshole that's dead now. He was assassinated. Chris, whatever. I guess I'm getting older because people who I have absolute contempt for, I sometimes have a difficult time recalling their name. But when I came back from the war, one of the reasons why I stopped going to mass and and I stopped dealing with anything, Catholic, is because of the fact that I saw the Catholic in America uh, basically hanging out with the same type of people. I'm talking about these so-called Christian evangelicals These were the same people that a couple of decades ago said that Jack Kennedy shouldn't be president because he was a Roman Catholic. And the American Catholic Church, or a large segment of it in the hierarchy, they basically joined with the evangelicals because they wanted to try and suppress women, okay, with their anti choice stand. And that's when I left the American Roman Catholic Church and basically started, going to Unitarian services. And that's the sad thing I feel about the American Jews that support Israel and what they're doing. Okay. I know American Jews. I'm old enough, I can remember seeing rabbis being beaten by the Klan in the cause of black, voting, being able to use a library. See, I'm old enough that I can remember that. So this whole business with what Israel is doing to Iran, it hurts me in here. But I'm also very upset because of the fact that twice the American people decided to elect an asshole to the highest office in the land. They decided to elect a very ignorant, very bigoted, very backwards individual, um, who basically has no freaking concept of what America's really supposed to stand for. And that's one of the reasons why the country's in the shape that it's in now. I, I look upon what has happened to America. I look at the people that we have in positions of responsibility, and it's depressing as hell. We have a Secretary of Defense, and I'll be damned if I call him Secretary of War. When Congress gives him, when Congress gives him the go ahead, excuse me, to call himself the Secretary of War, then that's fine because that's a call for Congress to make, not Pete Hegseth. Um, but this guy is an ignoramus. He's a murderer, and if we get a decent government in both the Congress, excuse me, both the House and the Senate, um, the sooner that he is brought to trial, the better, quite frankly. Murdering fishermen off the coast of South America, um, that to me, that's not protecting the United States, especially when his boss, the orange god that thinks he's Jesus, decided to give a free pardon to the president of Honduras, the same guy that said it was his ambition in life to stuff coke up the nose of every gringo. Now, I'm not a prude, okay? I'm really, I'm not. And my life has not been a bed of roses. But when you have a guy that says that his ambition in life is to turn every American into a coke addict, and then the president of the United States gives this guy a free pass then turns around and kidnaps the head of a sovereign government. Yeah, look, I know Maduro is not a nice man. Okay, I know that he, this guy is not a Jeffersonian Democrat. Okay, I get that. Frankly, if I lived in Venezuela, I'd be one of those people out in the streets rioting and fighting and what have you. But that's not the point. I don't live in Venezuela, right? I'm not a Venezuelan. So it's not my job to go marching in there and kidnapping the head of a government. That's just like saying, hey, during the 50s and early 60s, when, black people were being beaten, right, and murdered because they wanted the right to vote, how would America have liked it if two or three countries got together and said, "Hey, look what they're doing to their own people. Let's go over there and let's kidnap the president. Let's kidnap JFK or LBJ, right? Or Dick Nixon, and then set up a government that's to our liking." That would have, that's wrong. That would have been wrong. And Americans would have been rightly, let's take to the hills. Let's start doing some guerrilla tactics and what have you. I don't know why in the hell it hasn't happened in Venezuela. You come into my crib telling me what to do, I got something for you. It's just that simple. And that's as American as apple pie. But see, that's an example of the insanity that Americans have come to over the last 10 years. And see, that's that whole thing. And look, I've already got enough enemies. I'm not trying to make new ones, but I'm not going to stop speaking the truth. That's all about that white supremacy, that white American supremacy. You feel that you have the right to basically go to non-white, European places, and basically tell people what to do. Now, you have said that we don't want no dark people, especially Haitians or what's the other one, Syrians. But yeah, you open the door wide open for white Afrikaners from South Africa. And your reasoning is, oh, well, they are being hunted and discriminated against, and genocide is being committed against them. Well, I can tell you right now, I live in Central East Africa. And whoever says that is telling the goddamn lie. See? But again, that goes to the sickness that we have in the United States. And quite frankly, America is not going to be able, the United States is not going to be able to deal in the world of the 21st century and beyond until we cure ourselves this sickness called racism. Once again, I know people will not, they won't agree with that. I'm especially talking to white working class people because beside people of color that get burned by this insanity, white working class people catch hell behind this whole idea of, white supremacy. Why do you think I would say the working class white folks and working class white folks that live in rural areas, why do you think you don't have a hospital? Why do you think that your grandma is living upstairs on your couch? Because there's no nursing home for her. Why do you think all that is? Why do you think you don't have the SNAP benefits, your food stamps? And you voted for people that took away your health care, that took away your SNAP benefits, that took away your child who, who basically was doing research to prevent your child from having cancer. See, that is the poison of racism because it poisons those who are the objects, who are the targets, but it also poisons the people who have been told that, yeah, you have to be racist and do this racist thing to protect your standing in this American society. Look what happened with this mass deportation. I'm looking for white working class people who can tell me that they have more access to health care, that the school their kids go to are performing better, okay? That you have infrastructure, that there's creaky bridges, that the school bus that your kids go across every day has somehow been repaired, and that you have a bigger, fatter pay envelope now that we've had all this mass deportation. I mean, Trump can come to, come to your area in some rally, and you all will go there, yeah, Donald, right, right, right. Well, in the end, what have you got to show for? What have you got to show for all that hate? See, all this business ties in, right? Iran, Venezuela, mass deportation in the United States, it all ties in. Because you have to ask yourself, this whole business in Iran, uh, Mr. White working class person, what the hell has it done for you? What the hell has it done for you? And that's the same thing that could be said about what Trump did in Venezuela, or when Trump bombed people in Nigeria, or when Trump threatened to attack Greenland and take it over. What has any of that done for you and your family? See, this whole supremacy kick is like a drug. Once you start taking it, it don't stop. And in the end, just like with most drug addictions, you are left with absolutely zero. So listen, we'll be back later on this week, and I do appreciate you taking the time to let me come into your abode and hear what I have to say. I do thank you. And if you could be so kind as to subscribe to this channel, we would greatly appreciate it. And we're going to keep fighting, and we want you to do the same. Because the only way we're going to get through this is together, period. So listen, take care, God bless, and look out for each other.